So the first question I had for you was just tell me a bit about yourself and how you came into filmmaking and like how you became a creative and found that this is what you like to do.
Yeah, so definitely childhood filmmaking, really big early Tim Burton fan. I don't know what happened. I watched The Nightmare Before Christmas when I was 3 years old, and I just became obsessed with everything Tim Burton. And I guess it just kind of went on a loop and then expanded over the years. And I feel like I always just kind of like I was a pretty weird kid. I would say I felt like very just like a disconnected human being. Like I kind of just felt like an alien and was always escaping into like imaginary worlds, and how I was choosing to like express myself were in like imaginary play by myself, I guess. And then it just like I just was very I'm just a visual thinker, and just the more and more experiences I had and the more and more content that I consumed in regards to films and stuff like that, it just seemed like a language that I could understand better than, I guess, normal communication. It just seemed like I can articulate myself freely without any boundaries, and just kind of freestyle with my own experiences through such a through the filmmaking, the medium of filmmaking, I guess. I don't know if
No,
that
yeah.
answers, but yeah, it's definitely like I'm definitely trilingual, and filmmaking is the third one, right? Like it's like
No, for sure. I
a
totally
language for me.
no, I definitely understand. That's going through processes myself. Like I kind of do more of like a scholarly like outlook, if that makes sense. Like I do more like writing and criticizing rather than creating. But like with the basis of my program, you get the best of both worlds. So I and you kind of go back and forth. So I completely understand. It's like super different to make a movie than just like talk about like how that movie made you feel and stuff like that. Like if that makes any sense. But it's hard to like disassociate. So I completely understand. I mean, like just a language
Yeah.
that it just like broadens across all scopes. You know, like it connects to so many people in so many different ways.
Yeah, in one way, it's like a very technical medium. Like it's very nerdy, like cameras in general, or just even just being like having critical thought in regards to filmmaking. It's just there's so much there, and then at the same time, it's also very intuitive and loose and stuff like that, which I like. I definitely am a right and left brain person, and if you feel the same way, which a lot of people are in film, it's kind of like the perfect thing to explore a career in or a pathway in.
No, for sure. It encapsulates so much that you're like, this, I can do anything. Like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And you can always take it so many different ways. Like no, I really agree. And I what's the word I'm looking for? Like appreciate that someone views it in that sort of way rather than like it has to be done like ABC, like whatever, you know what I mean? Like I don't think it should be viewed like that. Not that it really matters my opinion on that. I feel like everyone can just kind of take it as they go. Do whatever you want to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, your opinion does matter. Obviously, like I'm assuming that you do critical studies, and you're probably constantly being a critic and analyzing and making judgments on media. Some people, especially when you're like, I don't know, I'm sorry, I don't know what your pronouns are, but if you're like assigned female at birth, right? Like if you're a woman, like people, don't take if you're opinionated or like, whatever, you're not a leader, you're judgmental, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
exploring, you probably feel more like I do in regards to just being critical or like nerdy in regards to film. It's a little freeing to be able to be that blunt or that analytical.
For sure. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of like segues into my next question, which is more so I was gonna ask, how would you describe your outlook on female and non-binary involvement within the film industry as a whole? Like that's again pretty broad question, but like
uh,
you know. just as we're speaking on it.
No, it's a really it's definitely something that I think about a lot, obviously. So I mentioned in my Femme Fatale Q&A that I wanted to be a musician a long time ago. When I was younger, I really liked music. I always liked film, but I just I wasn't even aware that women even made films. Like, I kind of assumed that they weren't even involved unless it was like costume design. I always watched the Oscars. They were like always actresses or in costume design. It was never directing or writing. And it was when Catherine Bigelow, who did The Hurt Locker, who I really like as a director, won for Best Director, that I was like, oh, what the fuck? Like, sorry if I'm not allowed to swear.
No, do it. Take it whatever you want. I don't care.
Women can make films too. Like, I don't understand. But this is amazing. It's like a portal opened up. It's been interesting to watch the trajectory of how things have shifted. I would say in the past like 3 years maybe, because even when I was in high school, I feel like just gender binaries were just even like we're always reinforced in regards to like women should make art like this, and they shouldn't address certain subject matter. Obviously, no one said it out loud. They said it in a more nuanced, passive aggressive way. But I definitely, as someone who has struggled with gender dysphoria, and I wasn't like ready to talk about it back in high school. I like grew up never ever relating to a female character ever in a film, just feeling so alone and isolated. And there was that whole, not to rag on Petra Collins, the photographer, but that was like the big aesthetic for women to participate in and kind of repurpose as a trend back in high school. And I wasn't that, and I was constantly called things like edgy. Like, people just wanted to call me edgy or criticize me for liking more masculine things or having a more masculine aesthetic. And it was just very hypocritical. I went to Etobicoke School of the Arts. We were like one of the first high schools to have like a gender neutral bathroom. But it's like, it's not up to anyone for me to come out of the closet and tell you what I identify as. And I just kind of look back and think to myself, I think that if I said that I was, gender fluid, or I was struggling with my gender, that this art would be more palpable for people to digest. But in the end, why should it matter? Even if I fully identified as a woman, why should it matter what subject or what aesthetic I have? Like, just because I don't have, sparkly curtains, and I don't have cheerleaders like with glow makeup under a pink glow light, holding flowers in my photography. Like, why am I less valid because I'm not participating in the gender binary? Like, why am I being judged for being in this gray area, or why do I feel underappreciated for it? And because there's been more and more discussions just on like gender identity, I think in the past 3 years, it's been definitely more open, and I've definitely seen a shift in how people accept me and perceive me. But you also don't forget about those experiences where people, like I remember this one time. I hate to spill any like I don't mean to be like whatever about anyone back in high school, but this one time I had a falling out with a whole bunch of girls in the 12th grade, and my friend was watching a whole bunch of them. I did a whole photo series on, a lot of them were men, a lot of them were portraits of boys. And I didn't want to come out at the time and say I hung out with boys and I had a male aesthetic and took photos and related to boys, because I wanted to be, a part of me wanted to be a boy. I didn't feel comfortable in saying that at the time. And all of them took out all of my portraits and started like making fun of it and like making jokes and like trashing it and shit. and my friend called me up, and it just struck such a like personal chord. I just came up and I was like bawling my eyes out. I was crying because one of the portraits were like ripped at the top. Some of them was like one of them was like mishandling them, and it just was like one of the rudest things I think has ever been done to me. But it was just like that constantly over and over again. And like people being like, your characters swear too much in the film, or, I had a Russian roulette I get a scene in one of my grade 12 films, and all of the boys in the older grades are doing these like explosive spaghetti westerns where people's heads are being blown off and there are explosions and there's sexual innuendo. Why is it the gun's not even going off in my film? Why is it when I use a prop gun, it's automatic, it's all of a sudden not acceptable and like controversial? Or why would my character swear, it's controversial, but you're a huge Quentin Tarantino fanatic and there's other people in the school that are boys that are dealing with dark subject matter? It just doesn't make any sense.
Mhm.
And again, those experiences stick with you, especially if you're like in the closet about your gender dysphoria and you don't want to talk about it. Like, it really sticks a personal chord. And I know that it's not the end of it. It won't go away as I continue to pursue